My question is to the Minister for Local Government. Our local councils deliver critical services to our communities and are staffed and governed by some of the most dedicated people you will ever meet. But all too often, they are treated as convenient deflections for the failures of state governments. Minister, the existing rate cap on local councils has been demonstrated to suppress wages and jobs growth in a sector that has a predominantly female workforce. It is inconsistent with the need to be lifting wages, promoting and protecting the quality of work for women in our economy, and ensuring local communities have access to quality services. On top of the rates cap, the government has now announced it is cost-shifting its responsibility for public housing maintenance onto councils. As our economy grapples with low wages and a persistent gender pay gap, and the need for increased investment in local services, why is your government continuing a policy which exacerbates wage suppression and job creation suppression in a predominantly female workforce?
Mr. Lee.
Thank you, President. I thank Ms. Ratnam for a question. And I'm not being difficult, but I'm assuming it's the rate cap policy that's a concern, or the potential new policy, or yeah, I'm happy to touch on both. As I said, it's not been difficult. I just wanted to make sure I'm answering the question properly. And as far as the rate cap is concerned, it's actually been a popular initiative for ratepayers in a period beforehand that there could be a way of councils just deciding they want to build a lot of things that they'd like to build and apply a formula, and that formula ends up that there could be a 10% plus increase to ratepayers in those local government areas because of those aspirations, were not particularly the aspirations of the ratepayers. The cap is going to continue to be our government's policy, but I can say that the recent Auditor General's report into the financial health of the local government sector and all local governments has actually shown, despite, and to the credit of the councils too, despite the challenges of the last 2 years, most local governments are in a quite healthy financial position, to the point that some are actually, and as I said, well done to them, have got quite healthy surpluses. So I think the argument about the rate cap and how it affects the financial sustainability of local governments doesn't ring true when you look at the actual reports from the Auditor General. As far as the other part of your question, the concern around a potential new initiative, I think that I answering a question previously to another member that it's not unique at all for me to have had conversations with the local government sector about they are actually really passionate about there being more public housing in their particular local government areas. And I think the position that we'd like to take is that all levels of government that should contribute to the public housing stock in certain ways. But as you would know, Ms. Ratnam, that there's still, potential of discussions going forward, and I've committed to previous question that I am like to pride myself to being accessible, and I will be accessible to councils and peak bodies if they want to discuss with me their contemporary concerns around what was flagged last week.
Ms. Ratnam, on a supplementary.
Thank you, President. Thank you, Minister, for your answer. But respect with your answer, populism should not come at the cost of job and wage suppression. As I noted in my initial question, on top of the rate cap, the government has announced they want councils to cover the cost of the government's decade-long neglect of public housing, with the announced social housing rates exemption set to financially devastate so many of them. This will shift the cost of public housing maintenance from government, where it belongs, to local councils, who will now be under even more financial pressure to provide important services to social housing residents in their municipalities. In my electorate in Northern Metro alone, this is what it's going to cost councils. City of Yarra, $3.8 million in a year. City of Darebin, $3.5 million per year. Moonee Valley, $2.8 million. Hume, $2.87 million per year, and the list goes on. I've been meeting with councils and the ASU in recent weeks about the impact of the rate cap and now this disastrous exemption announcement. Minister, why is your government asking councils to make the impossible decision of closing critical services and cutting jobs to pay for the government's responsibility for public housing?
Minister.
Look, and I suppose that to address, and thank you, Ms. Ratnam, for the question, to address the populism point that you made, there's no doubt that there's a lot of ratepayers under hardship as well, and I think that was part of the policy around the rate cap. So I'm trying to answer Ms. Ratnam's question with respect. Getting back to, look, I'll stand on my substantive answer that I respect local governments, peak bodies, other bodies to have disagreements with government policy. I respect that. I respect that they have concerns, and as I've said, stand by my substantive answer. I'm more than happy to have those further discussions with them.